All right, hello everyone. Pardon if you hear dogs barking next door, but we're here. Hi, Alyssa.
Hello.
And Alyssa, this is a rental Tesla Model Y, right?
Yes. So last time I compared the Model Y versus the Model 3, and you guys all said in the comments, "Oh, they don't really compare to each other." No, they don't. But it's just filming things that we needed to do. But these two, the Mach-E versus the Model Y, are very, very close in price, in usability, in size, and just pretty much everything. So Max and I are going to guide you to see which one would best suit you guys. So let's get into it.
All right, so just to kind of overview the specs briefly, what Alyssa said at the beginning is very true. These vehicles are so comparable. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E, you can get rear-wheel drive cheaper at around like $43,000, but the minute you start to add things like all-wheel drive to bring it up to where the standard Tesla Model Y is, then the prices get very comparable. We're approaching $48,000. Realistically, you start to add options, $50,000 for either one of these vehicles. They both are eligible for the EV federal tax credit, which is nice. So that's up to $7,500 as a tax credit from the IRS. And then in terms of capability, they're also very equivalent when you do have the dual motor all-wheel drive Mustang Mach-E like we have here and the Tesla Model Y. Now this Tesla Model Y would be a bit cheaper, the one we're comparing, because this is the standard long-range Hertz spec basically, whereas this is the Mach-E Premium. So it has a few of the nicer things, the B&O sound system, some kind of basically fancy aids as well. You can add the ability to have a Blue Crew subscription. The hardware is built in just like Tesla. So if you're a fan of using those kind of driving assistance features, they're also actually very comparable. Blue Cruise is one of the best systems. It compares, I think, pretty nicely to Autopilot. And those are kind of the key specs, really. We're looking at a vehicle with Model Y that starts at $48,000, and if you get performance, it goes up by about 10 grand. Mach-E will actually get more expensive if you get the GT or even a spicy, like a California Route 1 edition where you option a lot of things. Those are the two higher end trims. However, if you get the very cheapest Select rear-wheel drive, it's cheaper. So basically, slightly wider spread in pricing on Mach-E. Model Y, I think, fits, though, that middle sector that honestly, if you're buying either vehicle, most buyers will be in. But Alyssa, that's kind of the overall specs. What do you think is the best place to start with the head-to-head between these two?
I think the first thing that everybody's going to ask is the differences in range.
Yeah, so rated range is always a different thing because, EPA cycles, Tesla kind of does its own thing. But I believe, Alyssa, it's like 270 miles for the long range, actually 300 miles for the long range Model Y. If you get the base Model Y, it's 270, whereas the Mach-E is 250, and I think you can get it to 290 if you basically get the fancy dual motor, larger 91 kilowatt hour battery in the Mach-E, where at that point, right, it's as expensive, if not more, than Model Y. So you can get it up to, I think, 300, they said 320 miles if you get the California Route 1 spec. So the big difference there would be, unlike the model we have, that would have the smaller wheels. So I believe these are the 19-inch, but 18-inch wheels on the California Route 1. Wheels in an electric car are really such a big factor in range. Same issue with Model Y. If you get a performance Model Y with the larger, like 20-inch wheels, you're going to get less range.
But we're talking about miles, not huge things.
Honestly, yeah. And while Tesla may seem like it has an advantage, I think we found in the real world that it's not that the Model Y underperforms. It's a very efficient car, but realistically, I think both of these cars are going to have similar range. I do think the Model Y is a little bit more efficient because it has a smaller battery and it's getting the same, if not better, range with that smaller battery. Whereas with the Mach-E, right, to compete, we need that bigger battery. It's a little bit less efficient.
Yeah, so I mean, both are within range. They're both very similar. But I think the one thing, and it's going to change in the next couple of years, is the charging network for both of these cars. Max, do you want to dive a little bit deeper about the whole NACS fund situation?
That's a great point. So I think everyone is familiar with Tesla superchargers if you know electric vehicles at all. And of course, Tesla Model Y works with those out of the gate. It's, in our experience, the best charging network, the most reliable, the most built out for fast charging across the country. The Mach-E, as is sold today, has what's called CCS. It's basically the other standard every other car uses. I can show you what it looks like here. It's basically a bigger connector, and you're looking at third-party charging providers like Electrify America, EVgo, and ChargePoint Express units to charge with these. And reliability with these stations has been hit or miss. So the exciting news is that next year, 2024, applying to all Mach-E's, including one you buy today, Ford's going to give basically an adapter, provide an adapter option for owners so they can adapt to Tesla superchargers starting sometime right next year. Then in 2025, so future Mach-E's that you'll buy in over a year from now, they're actually going to build in the Tesla charging port. And Ford was the first automaker to announce partnering with Tesla on having the North American charging standard. That's Tesla's connector. So I think they deserve credit as being the pioneers here. We're seeing a lot of other vehicles do that now. It seems like everyone in the US is kind of getting in on that, but I give big kudos to Ford for starting that trend.
Yeah, so right now, the Model Y can charge on any charging network.
Yeah.
And the Mach-E is going to be right down the road, and being able to do it within the next year or so is what they are predicting.
Yep.
They're still not final. All of that stuff could still not be final, so we don't want to promise anything. But we do have very, very high hopes that that is going to be happening within the next year or so is what they are saying.
Yeah, quick point. You mentioned, you can charge Model Y in anything because Tesla does sell you an adapter today. You can buy. It's an extra cost. It's like $200 something.
Totally worth it.
But honestly, totally worth it, especially if you live somewhere like we do in Colorado, where we actually have pretty good CCS infrastructure. And so it's a great complement. You can use superchargers most of the time. Still nice to have that adapter if you want to be able to charge anywhere. And next year, we'll be in that situation where both cars can vice versa do either one, right? With an adapter, you'll be able to charge anywhere on either of these.
Yeah, and actually the other charging networks other than Tesla are generally cheaper to charge at, and that's why you sometimes see Teslas at the Electrify Americas, the charge points, and all of that, because it is a tad bit cheaper to charge their car on those charge point operators. So that is one interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, they're still neck and neck right now. I mean, within the next year or so, they will definitely be head to head. So what do you believe are the major differences between the two?
Well, we talked about range, we talked about charging, right? That's what's on most first-time EV buyers' minds. Performance, right? Everyone talked about 0 to 60 time. Tesla does have, I think, the Mach-E dead to rights there. So the Tesla, I believe the free performance is like a 3.4 second 0 to 60. The one we're looking at is like a 4.5 second. And then the Mustang Mach-E is actually a little bit slower. If you get the base rear-wheel drive one, it's almost 7 seconds 0 to 60. And then I'll have to refresh my memory. I'll put in text here for what the 0 to 60 time on this model is, but I believe it's in the like 4 second range. So they're both quick, honestly, quick enough for most people. But if you want to brag about that 0 to 60 time, you want the zippiest feel, Tesla Model Y gives it to you, especially when you're looking at, price for price, like for like.
So the next thing we'll talk about is the practicality between both cars, and this is going to be diving more into the space. And if your children are going to be comfortable in it, or your dogs, in my case, which I care about the most, and just the overall sizability of everything on who has the bigger car. So just for everybody's reference, I'm 5'10", 5'11". My legs are about as long as a 6-foot human being. So just for that reference, I will set this to how I will sit in the car, which this is pretty close to what I would do. And I'll go ahead and sit in the back here. Also, I do want to mention the differences between getting in and out of the car. You just use this little button right here versus on the Model Y, you got to do all these little maneuvers, and I mean, it's not totally difficult. You get used to it, but it is kind of annoying. I just want door handles. Okay, so sitting in the back here, I have plenty of room. It is very comfortable in here. I will mention already, here are 2 vents right here, but there are no side pillar vents, which to me that's very important when it comes to kids and dogs. My dogs personally love to have that side vent to keep them cool as possible. So within space, I think that works out pretty good. How do you get this trunk going? There it is. And then for the boot size, I want to just go ahead and pop both of them. All right. Now we'll look up the full cubic specs of it and put it up here, but just from like the visual looks, this whole thing can pop out and go away. But when I put everything down, which back here is, I don't know how. Is it these buttons?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta push.
They're really awkward
Yeah,
because
you
they're
gotta-
right under the seatbelt
You
holders.
gotta push down pretty hard. But
Yeah.
no, it's not too bad. This is very adequate space. You've got little cubbies here, which is nice. And then underfloor storage, what do we got here? I think this is our charging cable, tire inflator, which is nice. Is there a spare tire in here? I don't believe so, but neither does the Tesla. So boot space for that, we'll take a look at that. Let's look over here at the Model Y. Naturally, to me, this feels bigger. Oh, we can't put the seat all the way down there. And these are power electric, so that's already a big plus. And then just within size, there's a lot more space here. If you zoom in here to put everything, I mean, that's like at least my whole forearm can go down in there. And Tesla, of course, comes with the cable. And then you also have all of this space as well. So right now, in terms of storage and being able to fit things in the car, Model Y is definitely winning. So now let's go into the Model Y's preference. I've already been driving this, so it's in my height range. And then let's get these back up. And we're all the way back here. Same space, not bad at all. There's definitely a lot more like just under storage right in here. And there also is no side pillar vents either. So within back space, if you're looking for the family road trip car, the Model Y has more space.
And there's a
hands down.
7-seat option in this too.
There is too, yeah. So you can fit more humans in here if you'd like. Smaller humans I would definitely suggest because in the back it does get a little cramped. But when it comes to just boot space and being able to fit your luggage in there, your dogs in there, if you have your kids and your dogs, I think the Model Y is winning because you have that underfloor storage. In terms of frunk space as well, if Max, you can pop that one for me.
Yep.
Okay. Frunk space, I think is pretty, it's same width sides, but within depth, they've added a little bit more intricacies. It's like, are these cup holders here? I'm not 100% sure.
It's a little bit more complex packaging,
Yeah.
and there's just all this stuff that's kind of going into where you could have fit more.
But what is
things.
interesting that you can get in the Mach-E versus the Tesla is that you can actually use this front trunk as a cooler because it has a drain. So that's an interesting quirk. I don't know if anybody ever really uses that. I know they do within the Lightning because that's just a cool feature. They really harked on that. But within just size, I think you're able to fit a small suitcase in here, I would say, and a small suitcase in here. And there really isn't much difference other than they take out some space with this lip right here. So the number one thing that is always very important to me as a fellow loving dog owner is pet mode and just being able to keep the air conditioning on while you are not in the car. Tesla, of course, came up with, well, not really came up with it, but had it to begin with and implements it very, very well. We just got a Newfoundland puppy who's hot 24/7, and boy, does he love sitting in pet mode more than anything. I've never seen him nap. He loves to be in pet mode in the Tesla. It's just incredible. Now, we've talked to our friends over at Mach-E Vlog about what this car has to offer in terms of keeping the climate on, and what they told me is that you can put it in accessory mode just like you can do for the Audi e-tron or like Max's Polestar and keep the climate on for 30 minutes, or what you can do is you can actually keep the car on, keep the climate on, lock the keys inside of the car, and use a PIN code on the outside if you do choose. The only downside of it, and a huge, huge downside, is you're not able to monitor the temperature from your phone or from the app. So if it does turn off, and I might be wrong, put in the comments down below if I'm completely wrong, you're not able to really know what the temperature is inside at all times. And right now it is 101 degrees outside. Would I trust my dogs or my kids in this car? No. Would I trust my dogs and my kids in this car? Yes, because it has the camera as well, which is awesome. So you can look at everything that's going on in there. And if the dogs get in distress, you can hear that, you can know that. It's just implemented absolutely perfectly within the Tesla. So that is the biggest downside for me, and that's probably why I personally would never go for this car. But the one thing that we wanted to talk about, and we'll compare it as the rental car experience. What car is best for you to jump into? You've never driven a EV before, ever, ever, ever. What car is easiest to just get in, drive, and go? I would personally say the Mach-E would be, just because if you come inside, we'll go ahead and show you just how normal of a car it is inside. So it's got your gear stocks, it's got your start button, it's got your Prindle, as I like to say it, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody reference. So all of that stuff is very intuitive. If you drive Ford vehicles, or if you drive the newer Ford vehicles, I guess I would say, it's just like jumping into a combustion car. I mean, there's really no difference. But when it comes to the Tesla, there's just the keys are in there. There's just a little bit more intricacies. You definitely get used to it over time. I mean, it takes absolutely no time to get used to. But in order to put the car and start, you have to use the gear stocks going up or down to go into reverse or drive, which, I mean, it'll be intuitive in time because a lot of cars are moving towards that. But right now, I would say just your jump in, grab and go. Never driven a EV before, Mach-E would definitely win in that term. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to drive both of them and give you kind of a ride quality comparison, because when you're on those long road trips, the seats need to be comfortable, the ventilation needs to be great, the ride quality needs to be good as well. So we'll jump in.
Okay, apologies if there's some AC noise. Like you said, Alyssa, it's 101 degrees today. We're in the Model Y interior though, and what do you think?
It is just like any other Tesla. If you've ever been in one, they're all pretty much the same. The only thing that I'll ever mention with Tesla is their build quality is a little bit not as great as bigger companies such as Ford. So definitely within build quality, if you're into the panel gaps, if you're into the headline or not, you being stuck in all the way, or the window seal here, which I found on plenty of them, then definitely go with the tried and true and trusted Mach-E. But to me, in the end, it does not matter. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take it on a quick loop and get the driving quality of the car. They've actually improved this immensely since, I think, like a couple years ago when I drove it in Norway. It was terrible. I hated it. I just wanted anything but to get out of the car, and that's what kind of started me to not ever want the Model Y. But in terms of just like overall price and what you're getting for in this car is absolutely amazing. Everything is integrated so well. I mean, you do not get this kind of tech, and I know Max will agree with me, you do not get this tech in any other car.
No, that includes the phone app. And if, you know, in the context of a rental, unfortunately, you don't get that Tesla phone app experience.
Right.
But if you're owning this car, I find the Tesla software that built in both into the screen and what you can access from the app, all the things you've mentioned, like seeing the interior camera for checking on your pets or kids, Sentry mode, everything that's built in, the navigation. I honestly don't think the Ford system's bad, like by the standards of most car makers.
No.
It's decent. But like when it comes to just Tesla versus everyone else,
right,
they blow everyone away.
Yeah.
And yes, it takes some getting used to. Like, I know, Alyssa, a lot of people complain with Model 3 and Y that you don't have like your speed behind the wheel.
Yes, which, I mean, all of these things you can complain about, but as soon as you own one and you're literally in it for like a week, maybe at most, maybe 2 or 3 days, depending on how much you really drive, you get used to it within no time. I mean, I know within Tesla software, and that's one thing that always just kind of bothers me. It's always getting better, but sometimes it's always moving around things and where you're looking at things. And when I haven't, because we personally own 2 Teslas. We have the Model S and we have the Model 3. The Model 3 has over 130,000 miles. I've spent plenty of time in that car, and they've just changed around things over time, and that just gets kind of frustrating. Like, I know all of this has changed to where you can get your windshield wipers, and it used to all kind of be in here, and you can, it's just always changing. And for some people that's great, they love the updates. I think it's great as well because you're getting new tech all the time, but sometimes it just gets a little aggravating and confusing for maybe some older folk or people who just, want to hop in and get in their car and know what they're doing every single time they're in their car. So right now we're just taking it on a little loop, and comfort wise, I mean, it's great. It's fine. It's nothing special. Like, you can feel all the bumps there. You could probably have heard them. I'll hit it again. Yeah. So, like, in comparison to something more prestigious like my Audi e-tron, you don't feel those things. We'll see how the Mach-E, I am purposely hitting every single pothole to get the test here, to really feel what all of that is. And I'll do a curb test, just kidding. We'll not curb the wheels.
That's already been done on this rental car.
Oh yeah, Model Y or Hertz rental cars, just in general, I don't know why I put in here, definitely good. Have the curbage, the curb appeal all over it.
They all do.
So just to kind of wrap up things within the Model Y is, I mean, you get a lot of bang for your buck. You get the tech, you get the reliable charging network, which right now is just so important when you're on a road trip with your kids and you just want to get in and just seamlessly just plug it in. I mean, it's just so easy, and then you can just walk away. That is not something you can do with a CCS vehicle as of right now. Is that changing? The future, everything, it's always evolving. Things are definitely going to get better, no doubt. But as of right now, in this state of time, 2023, we're in July, it sucks. Just to be point blank, it is terrible.
Alyssa, I should mention that the Mach-E, and we'll get in it and we'll talk about this too, but it's one of the better CCS vehicles for convenience, because the Ford app, if you can use it, if you own it, you have the Ford Pass, it's nice. It consolidates all the chargers you can use.
Yep.
They've got plug-in charge support on Electrify America, so you plug in the car, and theoretically, right after like a 20-second handshake, it just starts charging. No need to fuddle around with an account or their app. So I think the potential's there. It's just Tesla's realized it already.
Tesla just has it in. I mean, so we'll do a quick test right here. Let's route to Las Vegas, a little bit shorter. And just see how long it takes. This is real time.
That's so quick.
And I mean, we're already getting routed here to each charger. It's good doing it as the crow flies, so it's still learning to how long we need to stop at each charger. And I'll give you guys a quick tip, because we're on guide right now. You don't really need to stay at the charger in full charge every single time, guys. You don't need to. What you need to do is pull in as low as possible. Get to that 10% range. I think 10% is what most people could be comfortable with. I mean, I roll in at 1 to 2, maybe 0%, but that's just me. And then you get that higher charging curve to begin with, which makes the speeds a little bit faster, and then you just kind of charger hop on road trips versus staying at a charger for 45 minutes to an hour and then trying to make it to as furthest away as you could possibly do. That actually takes a lot more time than just doing a quick 10-minute top up and going to the next charger. So as you see here, we're already routed, and it tells us everything that we need to know. So we'll remember to do Las Vegas, New Mexico in the next clip. Blonde moment there for me. We both didn't catch that, but as you saw, it was very quick, simple, easy. It routes you there. There's really not much to think about in terms of road tripping with a Tesla, and we'll see how it is in the Mach-E. I've never road tripped a Mach-E personally, so I can't give you that full experience as some other owners can. That maybe we'll just comment down below on to see how seamless everything is. So let's go ahead and drive back to the parking lot that we were at and jump into the Mach-E and see how things are going.
All right, here we are in the Mustang Mach-E.
And I would say visually, it does look better in here. What do you say? What do you think?
I agree with you. I think if someone cares about like sportiness, this feels more like, I mean, I don't think anyone would say it's really a Mustang, but it has more of that sporty character.
We don't want to get into that.
We don't want to get into that fight, but
Yeah.
the Tesla, like you said, Alyssa, it's the same as all the Tesla interiors, more
Right.
or less. It's minimal. If you like that, that's great. It's tech forward. This is like, I think, more of a balance of physical controls,
Yeah, it just
some tech.
it has so much more to offer in here is what I would think. Like, you have your under storage here, which I mean you have in the Tesla as well, but I just feel like there's a lot more thought put into this
It's
versus
a
the
normal
Tesla.
car ergonomics. I mean,
Right,
you have a
yeah.
glove box you can open manually,
Yeah,
not
you don't have
through a screen.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the screen, which, like I said in the last clip, you have to figure out where, because they change that all the time, of where the glove box is. But I think now you can actually set it into the swipe thing. But anyways, we're here in the Mustang Mach-E, and I will say, first impressions, it feels just like getting into a normal combustion SUV, but it's electric, which makes it, of course, 10 times better. We are pro electric on this channel. So one thing that I will mention is that you do, just like just a normal car, you have to put your foot on the brake and press the power button to get it into gear, then to be able to switch it into drive here. From a normal user, if you've never been in either, when it comes to the tech, I wouldn't say this is awesome. I mean, it's snappy, it moves pretty quickly.
I don't know if I'd agree with you on snappy, Alyssa. Like, it's not, we can turn that off for copyright. I wouldn't say it's the worst car system I've seen, but
Right.
the Tesla is so much more responsive, not just swiping around the maps, but every time I seem to touch something on this, it's like, compared to the Tesla, it's like, wait, okay.
Yeah, but if you've never stepped into a Tesla, you would think this is amazing. The charging speeds, and that's something that we did not talk about, the charging speeds on this is not great.
I want to talk about that, but first, before we leave tech, I also want to mention there is a huge advantage to Mach-E. Let's say, Alyssa, right, you're that person who's not a car guru or an EV-specific guru, and you haven't used a bunch of Teslas. You like using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in your existing car. You can use those, wired or wireless, on this system, and they both are integrated really nicely.
Yes, and that is something, that, like Max said, Tesla does not have. You can buy aftermarket products for those, of course, but it's not going to be as seamlessly integrated as something like in this Mach-E here. Tesla just kind of has it all in one package. The only difference is you're getting is all-wheel drive, long range versus just normal, and then performance. I mean,
it's simpler with them.
Right. And you could just buy it through an app online. You just click the buy button and it'll show up at your door. It's easy as that. And within the Ford, you have to go through the whole process of going to the dealer and all that stuff, which, I mean, it's not a huge hassle, but in terms of just ease, like the amount of people you can shock. I know when my grandfather first bought his Tesla, which he actually has a Model Y and he loves more than anything, he was so surprised that he literally could just buy it through his computer, and he was just enthralled by it. So, I mean, there's different ethos with all the companies. I mean, Ford's been around for many, many years, way longer than Tesla has been around. So there is the huge differences, but in the overall terms, I mean, it's a good car. It's comfortable. Does it drive as soft? I mean, now that I've driven both of these around the block, I can tell you guys more about that. And I hit all the potholes, just like I mentioned. I would say the Model Y is a little bit smoother. Max, what's your input?
I found the Model Y can be smoother. It's more sophisticated. It's weirdly enough, I wouldn't say either of these is a sports car. They're both crossovers, but the Model Y does have more of a performance feel, even to things like the steering, because it's based off the Model 3, which really started as a sports sedan. You can tell. Whereas this car, Alyssa, I don't know what your feeling is, but every input, the steering, braking, acceleration, like, it works. It's there. It's comfortable enough, but it's also spongy. It just feels very, like, numbed.
Yeah.
And that's not an issue if you're not a performance head or whatever. It's fine, it's comfortable, but it's a very simple ride. And I think if you got the very nice GT performance with the Magna Ride suspension, maybe there could be some other characteristics that'd be really nice, but that's not the one we're in today, and that's a very expensive model.
Yeah, so, and just like within comparisons, we wouldn't want to compare the GT to this car, so we'll just keep it as is. So our last and final test before we go into the overall overview of which car we both would personally choose. We might be totally different on what we would both choose. We are going to go over to navigation here, and we are.
It's a little confusing, so you have to recenter on
Okay.
you, and then you get the search screen again.
Yes. Okay. So where to? And we were Las Vegas,
This
New
time,
Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico.
Okay, New Mexico. Yes. we
Yep,
put New
that's the
Mexico
one.
2. So we're gonna put this in, and we're gonna press go and see how it does. I think when I first got into this car, you actually had to set it up through your
Obey
phone.
traffic laws. Be alert and
Thank
use
you.
both.
That's very nice. You actually had to set it up through your phone to be able to get the charging to be implemented to this, which I found kind of odd. Like, it wasn't just an automatic thing. I mean, it was a very simple process. It was just like accepting something on the phone. But anyways, that was, I mean, pretty quick. Let's see the overall view of everything on what it thinks.
Similar route to the Tesla.
Similar route to the Tesla, 2 charging stops, 15, I mean, it tells you all the same things. I mean, that is very, very good. Most other CCS non-Tesla cars do not do this well.
Yeah.
At all. So this is actually a huge improvement. It does say you need to go 40 minutes charge. I mean, there's plenty of chargers along the way, so you can always make that difference. But within the terms, I mean, I honestly think that might have been faster than the Tesla.
Might have been faster. It seems very functionally similar. But then we have to talk about on-the-ground charging performance with this car. You hinted at this
Right.
earlier.
Yes.
This car, and it won't matter when it gets a Tesla adapter, it still will be limited.
Yes.
Because of its battery, the way it's engineered, it actually doesn't charge that well. It doesn't have a very aggressive charge curve. What that means is you're going to be sitting longer, typically at charging stops, to
Right.
wait for this puppy.
I mean, it can go up to pretty high speeds. We'll put how fast it's supposed to charge.
It's about 140, 130 kilowatts at the
Okay.
peak, so it's okay. It's honestly not even that great as a peak, but then
Right.
it doesn't even stay there for that long.
Right, like my e-tron, I mean, a lot of people nag on it, but it charges at 150, but it stays flat all the way up to 80%. This car, on the other hand, does not. I mean, it hits that peak, and then it just dies and dies and dies and dies. So it takes forever for it to get to 100% charge, which we don't always recommend going to 100%, but sometimes in order to stretch it, when you're out in the middle of Kansas, you have to.
Yeah.
It's just a no doubt. But within the Tesla Model Y, I mean, you're getting 250, and the performance is much better when it comes to charging. And then also, you mentioned something about the preconditioning. Do you want to go a little bit further, maybe explain kind of what that is before,
Yeah.
and then kind of compare the two?
Yeah, we didn't talk about this in the Tesla because they take care of everything for you. This is honestly like a point of advantage for non-Tesla car makers because until recently, lots of them weren't doing it.
Right.
Ford does this thing called preconditioning. So in addition to planning our stops, as we're navigating to the next stop, it's actually, depending on the temperature, cooling or heating the battery to give you the best charge temperature when you reach that destination. That's great. And that's one benefit if you are a CarPlay user to using this built-in system instead of your phone hooked into CarPlay, because there's still better communication with the car.
Which you can use both technically, right?
You could, yeah, there's nothing stopping you from
Yeah.
running both. I do know CarPlay has some slick integration. It's got EV routing support in this vehicle,
Okay.
and it'll actually show you the like turn-by-turn prompts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with
That's
Apple Maps in
nice.
this. So I don't know
Oh.
how they would conflict if you had both running, but I think theoretically you could, because
Yeah.
you could run your phone and the car system. And so you have that option, but Tesla, by forcing you to integrate everything, by forcing you to use the car and their app all the time, they make it so simple. This has all that, it's there, it's just you've got to know the right way to do it.
Right, and a lot of people, they argue, well, why doesn't Tesla have CarPlay or have Android Auto yet? Why haven't they implemented it? And my guess is solely because it's a program that they're not in full control over. So if anything were to bug or brick or anything like that, they aren't able to really help their end users and their customers. So that's why they like to keep within their own ecosystem, and it's perfectly fine. You don't really need it unless you are that, you have to have Waze. Like Kyle's dad loves to have Waze, so he actually bought a heads-up display system for his Model Y so he can be able to use Waze and Apple CarPlay in his Tesla Model Y, because that's just something he preferred. So there's options out there, but is it necessary? No.
No, it's not necessary, and especially in a Tesla. But here, it's so nice having that option. I will say, I have high confidence in Ford's ability to like work with Apple and to implement the best version of CarPlay. Like this car has always been the first to get the cool like EV features with that.
Right.
So while Ford maybe isn't Tesla good with their own software,
Right.
they're at least willing to work with others.
Yeah, and they really are. They're listening to their customer base,
Yeah.
and we love the guys over at Ford, and they love to do things with their customers, have their customers involved with launch parties and anything. I mean, you name it. They love that, have that ethos and that culture behind their car, and so they really stand behind it, and it shows within all their integrations and what they're doing, because I mean, this is, to me, it's just as easy. Would I ever complain going into this car? No. But have I taken it on a road trip and actually experienced it, see what it does when, I mean, there's like wind or weather, whatever it is, like, does it actually calculate for elevation gains and stuff like that? I mean, not even the Tesla does that very well either. So that's just something that's going to improve within the EV world as a whole. But in terms of just the community behind Ford is awesome. So let's go ahead, let's hop out, let's get back into this heat, and we'll summarize on which car we both would choose personally for our day-to-day daily road tripper. All right, so now we're back here. We've driven both vehicles, we've gotten a feel, we've explained kind of what the differences and the similarities are with both vehicles. And now it comes to the drum roll of what would Alyssa choose and what would Max choose. So I would have to say I would choose the Model Y, and solely that's just because of the dog mode integration, and just the ventilation side is just totally important to me. And I also love the tech and the infrastructure. So easy to road trip. I've never done it in the Mach-E, so I can't really say anything about that. But when it comes to just ease of getting into a new EV, personally, I'm used to EVs, I would go for the Model Y. So we'll flip the camera here and we'll get Max's take on which one he would choose.
I'm gonna go with the, well, surprise, the Mach-E, the different car here. Well, we're divided here, but I agree with all of your points, Alyssa. I do think the Mach-E is just personally nicer looking. That's my opinion. I think a lot of people will see that too. The Tesla Model Y, you see so many of these on the road. You can get the Mach-E in some fun colors like the Cyber Orange. And yes, you have to spend more money, but if you do, you could get cool configurations like GT Performance. So the Mach-E is giving you a little bit of that extra special factor, as well as, I think, while not having as polished tech and features as Tesla, like dog mode, this does a really good job of being a familiar car or a crossover to buyers who haven't used an EV, haven't used a Tesla before. It's good enough. Its biggest weak point, in my opinion, is despite being able to charge on Tesla next year, it's not going to have the seamless integration. It probably won't be as quick to connect as the Tesla supercharger. It's not going to be as quick to charge because of limitations in the battery and the design and the efficiency. These are all areas where the Model Y wins out. But as a usable everyday car, you mostly charge at home, I'm going to want to go with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of friends that own Mach-E's, and they absolutely love it. They never have any complaints. I never hear about them turning it in. So, I mean, it's definitely, it's a great car to buy. They both are great cars to buy. It all depends on your ethos and what you want in your car, whether you want something you can make into kind of your own configuration, or you're going to buy more of a cookie cutter car, I guess, to kind of say. It totally depends on what you're looking for in the car, but that is both Max and I's opinion on what we would buy. And let us know in the comments down below what kind of suits you guys best. And if you have more questions, just go ahead and email us at guide@attaspecstudios.com, and Max will be happy to answer any questions. If we didn't cover anything that you maybe wanted to know a little bit more on, we would be happy to answer any of those questions and help you with your buying decisions with, I mean, if it's Mach-E versus Model Y versus iX, if you have more of a budget. I mean, the world is endless. The SUV market is getting bigger and bigger as we speak today. To iterate it all, you can't go wrong with either, but I personally would choose the Model Y, and Max would choose the Mach-E. So we'll see you all on the next one. We will talk soon. Bye-bye.